Good morning, everyone. First of all, she really wanted this to be an upbeat, happy, joyous occasion. I'm going to do my best not to break down. I've already failed. First of all, I'd like to explain who I am. I am one of her two daughters-in-law, as she called her daughters-in-law. I am married to her younger son, Lester, and of course, there's Glenn here as well. These are her words. This is her life story. As I have come to read this several times, I'm calling it her love story, and you'll understand why in a minute. Frances Averill Dawn Thompson, maiden name Ansley, was born January 9th, 1933, in the city of East London, South Africa, to Seventh-day Adventist missionary parents, Pastor Ross and Eva Ansley. She was their first child. A brother, Anthony Ray, known as Tony, was born on August 22nd, 1938, 5.5 years later. Much of Dawn's childhood was on missions. Her mother taught her English, arithmetic, some reading, and the, wait for it, Xhosa language of the Bantu people. Yeah, you try that a few times. Until Dawn started regular school in the 3rd grade in Johannesburg when she was 9 years old. A teacher, Ms. Tureen, took Dawn under her wing, teaching her from 4th to 7th grade, with Dawn loving school. The school was located in a local public school because the church school was about 30 miles away on the other side of Johannesburg. She then went on to Helderberg College, a Seventh-day Adventist boarding school, at the tender age of 14 years old. She stayed there for 6 happy years. She took the college secretarial course and graduated at the end of 1952. She worked as a secretary at the SDA North Bantu Mission Field Office, but her first love was nursing. She applied to the Carinas Nursing College, affiliated with the world-famous Groote Schuur Hospital, where Dr. Christian Bernard later did the world's first heart transplant. Dawn was accepted into nursing training and loved it. However, her nursing career was not meant to be because she renewed a college friendship with Ron Thompson. Ronald Charles Lloyd Thompson married Dawn on her 23rd birthday, January 9th, 1956, in the brand new Mowbray SDA Church in Cape Town. From this union of love, Ron and Dawn had their first son, Glenn Mark Thompson, on November 24th, 1961. And their second son, and my love, Lester Darren Robert Thompson, on September 30th, 1963. Dawn stayed home to raise the boys until they were old enough to go to school, and then she started working part-time. Dawn loved working for the Lord in any capacity he put her. She helped with Ron in many major city evangelistic campaigns, cheerfully, together with the boys, Glenn and Lester. Some of the other work she performed was as a secretary to the Vice President of Academic Affairs in Nazarene College, also as a legal secretary for many years, and as secretary to the faculty of the nursing school at Kettering College of Medical Arts for 14 years. She even ran a daycare for newborn babies in her home for 2 years. Not an easy task. Ron and Dawn lived and worked in South Africa, Zimbabwe, Uganda, Tanzania, Ohio, and Texas, and finally retired here to South Carolina on September 22nd, 1994. She loved to travel and visit interesting places and meet interesting people. And as we all have said about her, she never knew a stranger. Dawn played the piano for Sabbath school and the organ for service in many different churches. She taught the cradle roll in kindergarten divisions of Sabbath school for many years and eventually taught her own Sabbath school class, and I remember how proud she was of that. She served as a Sabbath school superintendent several times as well. Dawn loved life to the full in so many ways. She loved music with a passion: hymns, praise songs, classics, violin, saxophone, trumpet, organ, and also Hawaiian music. Her home was always full of music. She was an avid reader of the Bible, the Spirit of Prophecy books, autobiographies, any true stories, but disliked fiction. Actually, that's about the only thing I know of she disliked. She enjoyed knitting teddy bears for tragedy and gave them by the dozens to the local charity CASA for abused children, as well as to the Salvation Army. One of her other loves was gardening, and she planted beautiful gardens everywhere she lived, especially roses, geraniums, dahlias, and hydrangeas. She was always happy to be digging in God's good earth. Photography was also a great love of Dawn's. Notice how long that went? Lots of photos. She had 48 scrapbooks, photo albums, which she loved to show people. Plenty of material. She also collected South African landscape paintings, loved antiquing, and loved antique quilts. Dawn loved God's animals. From childhood, she had cats, dogs, a horse, and birds. She fed tamed and wild birds and loved to give nectar to the hummingbirds each year. Ron was greatly loved as a caring and loving husband to Dawn. She in turn was a good homemaker, loved to cook and bake and decorate her home. I think Ron was tired of all the times she redecorated their home. As mentioned, Dawn and Ron have 2 sons. Glenn married Sandy Grieve, and they have 3 children, Mark, Shelley, and Matthew. Lester married Pam Thompson, now Pam Thompson. Sandy is a psychiatrist. Both sons are medical doctors. Glenn is an OBGYN. Lester is a pathologist. Sandy is a psychiatrist. I have a measly master's and work in computers as a computer specialist. Dawn endeavored to be kind, hospitable, accepting as a mother, a mother-in-law, and a grandma. And believe me, she was all that and more. She really wanted this to be happy. I'm working on it. Okay. Except now my eyes are blurry. Okay. She loved her family so much. Naomi of the Bible was Dawn's inspiration to be a good mother-in-law. Dawn's beloved brother, Tony, died in South Africa a few years ago, and they were extremely close siblings. One of Dawn's other interests was to email or handwrite letters to her family and her relatives and friends, and she had many friends around the globe. If you were a friend of Dawn's, you were a friend for life. Jesus was her first passion, and she put him first in her life. Dawn's church family were loved and prayed for by her every day, twice a day.
Amen.
She especially prayed for the pastor and his wife because of the huge responsibility resting on their shoulders to work for the Lord and for the church. We know Dawn loved, looking forward to the blessed resurrection morning when the first person she would wake to see would be the face of Jesus.